The Maya are an indigenous people who have continuously inhabited the lands comprising modern Mexico and southward through Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador and Honduras. The designation Maya comes from the ancient Yucatan city of Mayapan, the last capital of a Mayan kingdom in the post-classic period. The mysterious Maya have intrigued the world since their discovery in the 1840s. Contrary to popular imagination, the Maya did not vanish, and the descendants of the people who built the great cities like Chichen Itza, Tikal and Palenque still exist on the same lands their ancestors did and continue to practice the same rituals which would be recognized by a native of the land 1,000 years ago.
Imagine explorers arriving to find our cities deserted. Our books have perished in some unknown catastrophe. All that is left to speak for us are the written words we have carved in stone. The travelers cannot make sense of our mysterious script. But if they could, would they comprehend who we were? In the jungles of southern Mexico and Central America, the ancient ruins of the Maya posed such a mystery.
The Maya Empire reached the peak of its power and influence around the 6th century AD. They excelled at agriculture, pottery, hieroglyph writing, calendar making and mathematics, and left behind an astonishing amount of impressive architecture and symbolic artwork. Most of the great stone cities of the Maya were abandoned by AD 900. Since the 19th century, scholars have debated what might have caused this dramatic decline. Let's have a look at the Mayan timeline.
As early as 1800 BC, the Maya had begun settling and established villages in what is today Mexico and Central America. Maya civilization peaked from 250 to 900 AD, during what archaeologists call the Classic period. More than 40 cities flourished throughout the region, with populations as large as 50,000.
The Maya timeline is quite extensive and commonly divided into loosely defined periods. However, the development of the civilizations varies through space as well as time, with different cities rising and falling across different times. In 700 BC, writing was developed in Mesoamerica. The Classic period from 250 AD was very important for world history because that is when the Maya started building their large temples and cities like Tikal and Chichen Itza. At around 600 AD, Tikal became the biggest city-state in Mesoamerica due to the decline of the city of Teotihuacan. In 899 AD, Tikal was abandoned. 900 AD marks the fall of the Classic period. In 1244 AD, the Itza abandoned Chichen Itza for reasons that are unknown. In 1263 AD, the Itza began building the city of Mayapan, and in 1283 AD, Mayapan became the capital of Yucatan. In 1441 AD, there was a rebellion within Mayapan and the city was abandoned by 1461. Shortly after this, Yucatan degenerated from a single united kingdom into 16 rival regions, each anxious to become the most powerful. In ancient Maya times, adults worked as farmers, warriors, hunters, builders, teachers, and many other things. Children had very different lives to today. They dressed differently, and their homes were much smaller. Children from noble families could learn maths, science, writing, and astronomy, but poorer children were only taught their parents' jobs. Families lived in great cities like Yax, Mutal, and Palenque, and also in surrounding farmland. The earliest Maya were agricultural, growing crops such as corn, maize, beans, squash, and cassava. Maize was soaked in lime or something similar and cooked. This enormously increased its nutritional value. Maize was also made into a sort of porridge called atole. During the Middle Pre-Classic period, which lasted until about 300 BC, Maya farmers began to expand their presence both in the highland and lowland regions. They were also great lovers of chocolate and would dry, grind, and mix cocoa beans with water to create a drink. You might think, yum, hot chocolate. In fact, it was quite bitter and frothy, and was often mixed with chili. The Mayans believed that chocolate was a gift from the gods, but the drink was served only to wealthy people, because cocoa beans were valuable and were thought to be a luxury. The Maya rainforest was inhabited for over 1500 years, and Palenque, Mexico, was another large Maya city in the rainforest, which survived with inhabitants for many years. There is much discussion about why Tikal, amongst other large Maya cities, suddenly fell into decline. A number of animals also lived in the rainforest, some particularly sought after by the Maya. The jaguar, the world's largest spotted cat, was hunted as its skin and fur stood for power and was therefore prized by the rulers. Other rainforest animals included several varieties of snakes, spiders, scorpions, bats, and stinging insects, including wasps. The area is also rich with spider monkeys, ocelots, pumas, and many species of birds. One of ancient history's most intriguing mysteries is, why did the Maya, a remarkably sophisticated civilization made up of more than 19 million people, suddenly collapse sometime during the 8th or 9th centuries? Around this time, severe reductions in rainfall were coupled with a rapid rate of deforestation as the Mayans burned and chopped down more and more forest to clear land for agriculture. Interestingly, they also required massive amounts of wood to fuel the fires that cut the lime plaster for their elaborate constructions. Experts estimate it would have taken 20 trees just to produce a single square metre of cityscape. It is important to note that the Mayan calendar was not the same as the sun-based calendar used by the Aztecs. Using their knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, the ancient Maya developed one of the most accurate calendar systems in human history. The ancient Maya had a fascination with cycles of time. They used calendars in order to know when best to plant crops for agriculture and to know when important ceremonies and other major events were to take place. The Mayan calendar dates back to at least the 5th century BCE and is still in use in some Mayan communities today. However, Even though the Mayans contributed to the further development of the calendar, they did not actually invent it. The same system was used by most cultures in pre-Columbian Central America, including those predating the Maya. The Mayan calendar actually consists of 3 separate calendars: the long count, which identifies years, and the Tzolk'in, divine calendar, and the Harb, civil calendar, which identified days. The long count is an astronomical calendar, which is used to track longer periods of time. The Maya called it the universal cycle. The Mayans believed that the universe is destroyed and then recreated at the start of each universal cycle. The Harb is a 365-day solar calendar, which is divided into 18 months of 20 days each, which is quite similar to our own system.
In the 5th century BC, the ancient people of Mesoamerica created the most accurate and sophisticated system for measuring time that the world had ever seen. This is the story of the Mayan calendar.
Thank you, everyone, for having us at the Council of the Chiefs.
We believe our new invention will change lives for all Mayans.
We call it the Mayan calendar.
What the hell is a calendar?
Good question. A calendar is a way to measure time. It marks years, it marks months, it marks days.
When's my birthday?
Your birthday? I don't know. What time of year were you born?
At the end of the rainy season.
Okay, then it's somewhere here.
When's today?
We're right here.
Well, y'all missed my birthday. Y'all owe me a bunch of presents.
Yeah, we do owe you some presents.
You know what I want?
What?
A new loincloth. This one rise up in the front.
Yeah, we noticed.
Hey, come on, guys. Can we get back to the calendar? I want to describe it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I have a question, too.
Oh, me too. Guys, we can't do everybody's birthdays. We have to move on. Okay, thank you. Now, with this system, we can ensure that people will never be late anywhere. They will always be on time.
I got a feeling some people still might be late.
Hey, watch it. Actually, he's right. I'll still be late.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, please focus. Okay, I'll show you how it works. Very simple. Okay, there are 20-day weeks. All right, we gotta see that. Okay, meeting's over. Let's get out there. Yeah. All right.
Oh, well, there they go. I get that I'm a complicated calendar, but you know what? We all are. Think about it, right? Anyway, happy birthday, everybody. Now get out of here.
The Maya genuinely believed that their calendar predicted that the world would come to an end on the 21st of December, the winter solstice, in the year 2012. Many people believed this to be true and were very frightened. Let's have a look at a video produced by NASA in 2012, which explains why the world will not end.
The widespread rumors that there will be a catastrophe or even a doomsday on December 21st are wrong. This is simply a big hoax. It will be a day just like any other. NASA has received thousands of emails and calls from members of the public who are concerned, especially young people. So it seems only right that NASA scientists should help to dispel these rumors of doomsday. There are many different threads that come together on this doomsday hoax for December 21st. They come from a variety of sources. The only thing they have in common is that one date of the 21st. Some people think that the Maya calendar from the ancient Maya civilization comes to an end on December 21st, or even that the Maya predicted some sort of catastrophe. That's simply not true. That's a modern rumor. It has nothing to do with the real Maya.
Just as people from China don't speak Chinese, but rather Mandarin, Cantonese, or another specific language, the Mayan people do not speak Mayan. They speak one of more than 25 languages in the Mayan language family. The Maya spoke a variety of languages, some of which are still spoken by at least 6 million people. These live primarily in Guatemala, Mexico, Belize, and Honduras. In 1996, Guatemala formally recognized 21 Mayan languages by name, and Mexico recognizes 8 more within its territory. The Mayan language family is one of the best documented and most studied in the Americas. Modern Mayan languages descend from the Proto-Mayan language, thought to have been spoken at least 5,000 years ago. One example of a Mayan language is Cachiquel, which is spoken by the indigenous Cachiquel people in central Guatemala. Cachiquel is still taught in their schools. Here's an example of 2 people from Guatemala speaking Cachiquel.
Uts awat grand. Lom tichika awat in kimbison in chawe. Pakwat in kimbisonik pakikshmuchika awat pakir shatel.
From at least 300 to 200 BC to the end of the 17th century, the Maya had a complex hieroglyphic writing system that was not deciphered until the mid-20th century. The system used symbols called glyphs, which were used to record events on stone slabs. There were approximately 700 glyphs. Unlike European languages like English and Spanish, the ancient Maya writing did not use letters to spell words. Instead, they used a combination of glyphs that stood either for syllables or for whole words. It may seem complicated to use a combination of sounds and signs to make words, but we do the very same thing all the time. For example, you may have seen this sign. Everyone knows that this sign means one way to the right. The one way part is spelled out in letters as usual, but the to the right part is given only by the arrow pointing to the right. Thus, this street sign is a combination of words and pictures that are very much like the way the Maya wrote things. After all, when a picture is worth 1,000 words, why spell it out? The Maya ball game Poc to Poc was only one type of several played throughout Mesoamerica, from the pre-classic period to the Spanish conquest. The game was not only a sport, but also had ritual and political connotations. The Maya ball game and its associated ball courts have been symbolically linked to the movement of the sun and moon, which are related to the seasonal agricultural fertility. Other explanations concern politics and warfare to legitimate the succession of a king, to mark boundaries, or as a substitute for war. The ball is hit into the field of play, and players can pass the ball to each other using only their elbows, knees, and hips. Hands, head, and feet are strictly not allowed. A point is scored when the opposing team fails to return the ball before it bounces a second time, or when the ball reaches the opposing end zone. The winning team is the team which scores the most points by the end of the game, which could last several hours. If stone rings are being used, the ball can be hit through one of the rings. The first team to hit the ball through a stone ring is immediately declared the winner, and the game is then over. The players on the winning team will be treated like heroes. However, the captain of the losing team may be sacrificed by decapitation or other means. The Maya were advanced mathematicians. They were only one of 2 cultures in the world that invented the concept of zero. Their number system was very different from what we use today. The Maya only used 3 symbols to represent all numbers. They used a place value system based on 20s, not 10s like we use today. It is presumed that this is because they counted with both their fingers and their toes. Their numerical system, possibly one of the world's most advanced at the time, allowed the Maya to make elaborate calculations needed to make precise astronomical predictions, which were astonishingly accurate. In their numeral system, the ancient Maya only used 3 symbols to represent all numbers. A dot has a numerical value of 1, a line or a bar a numerical value of 5, and a shell has the value of completion or 0. That's the dot and bar notation used all over Mesoamerica. These symbols, dot, bar and shell, are thought to represent items that the Maya people might have first used to count with, such as pebbles, sticks and shells. The Maya made instruments for practical reasons and enjoyment. They would use a friction drum to call the jaguar towards them, and a conch shell to announce the start of ball games, a king's procession, or when offerings were given during rituals. They often marked their instruments with the IK glyph, which looks like a T. The Maya played several instruments such as trumpets, flutes, whistles and drums. Perhaps the most noticeable instrument in Maya vase paintings is the trumpet. Trumpets, called humtaz, could be made of wood, clay or gourd, and were shaped like the modern didgeridoo, with large bells on the end. Most of the music itself disappeared after the dissolution of the Maya courts following the Spanish conquest. Some Maya music has prevailed, however, and has been fused with Spanish influences. The Maya had a number of gods, which they thought were important within their culture. The Maya believed that rulers were descendants of the gods, perhaps in the way some Christians believe Jesus to be the Son of God. The Maya's religion involved several aspects of nature, astronomy and rituals. Most gods represented a form in nature, for example, sun god Kiniahus or maize god Yumkax. The Mayans were known for their calendars and astronomical buildings. These were used during their religious rituals. Similar to the Egyptians, the Mayans built pyramid-like temples for religious reasons, the main difference in shape being that the Mayan pyramids have a flat top to build temples on top. The best known pyramid is El Castillo, or Temple of Kukulcan, in the archaeological site Chichen Itza, in the Mexican state of Yucatan. The Mayans worshipped more than 165 gods. The gods were human-like, were born, grew up and died. The Mayan religion believed that the human soul was vanquished to spend its afterlife in the underworld. Even the rulers' souls ended up there. Only those who died at childbirth or were sacrificed would have escaped the underworld.
According to our Mayan calendar, the world will be destroyed at the end of the 13th Baktun.
Unless we appease the gods' anger with a human sacrifice.
Don't worry, we got a guy here we've really been fattening up.
More cricket fajitas!
Oh, my brave, brave glutton. I'll be so lonely when they sacrifice you to the gods.
What?
The Mayans believed that every person had an animal companion who shared their soul. Every king had a jaguar as their animal companion spirit. Most Mayans had one animal companion, but some very powerful Mayan priests could have more than one. So what did actually happen to the Maya? From the late 8th century through to the end of the 9th, something unknown happened to shake the Maya civilization to its foundations. One by one, the classic cities in the southern lowlands were abandoned, and by AD 900, Maya civilization in that region had collapsed. Some believe that by the 9th century, the Maya had exhausted the environment around them, to the point that it could no longer sustain a very large population. Other Maya scholars argue that constant warfare among competing city-states led to the complicated military family and trade alliances between them to break down. Finally, some catastrophic environmental change, like an extremely long, intense period of drought, may have wiped out the classic Maya civilization. So, do the Maya still exist? Descendants of the Maya still live in Central America, in modern-day Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and parts of Mexico. The majority of them live in Guatemala, which is home to Tikal National Park, the site of the ruins of the ancient city of Tikal. The claim that the Maya somehow vanished simply because their cities were abandoned is not only inaccurate, but also insulting to the over 6 million Maya who carry on the traditions of their ancestors. A great deal has been learned about the Maya since the earliest discovery which documented the ancient ruins, but for the Maya living today, nothing of importance has ever been forgotten, and the cycle of life continues.